ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजाननपद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्ज सम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्वजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितशङ्खचक्रकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन्। हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी द्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयम्। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചനാനിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മന്യാനെ കുമ്പീടേണ്ടാത്തോരോ പ്രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so we'll do a review from 89. We'll do from the 7th stanza, and then 90 as well. So we Viji, you can do maybe for 7 or 8 stanzas, and then Madhu, you can do the remaining 7, 8.
Sure, Rajesh. Dasakam 89. भृगुं किल सरस्वती निकटवासिनस्तापसाः त्रिमूर्तिषु समादिशन्नधिकशत् त्वतां वेदितुम् अयं पुनरनादरादुद् इतरुद्धरोषे विदौ हरेऽपि च जिहिंशिषौ गिरिजयादृते त्वमगात् सुप्तं रमाङ्कभुवि पङ्कजलोचनं त्वां विप्रे विनिघ्नतिपदेन मुदोतितस्त्वं सर्वं क्षमस्व मुनिवर्य भवेत् सदा मे त्वत्पादचिह्नमिह भूषणम् वादीः निश्चित्यते च शुद्रिधं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवरा दधिरे विमोक्षम् त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोच्चयैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः जगत्सृष्ट्याद्यौ त्वां निगमनिवहैर्वन्दिभिरिव स्तुतं विष्णो सच्चित् परमरस निर्वैतवपुषं परात्मनां भूमन् वनिता भाग्यनिवहम् परितपश्रन्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे.
The last one, this tune is slightly different. It's like the 4-liner tune, then it'll land properly, but that's okay. It'll be like
I know, I didn't get that. I just went to the flow,
yeah,
Rajesh.
that's okay. And then the last line, first word, mattum, paritapa shrantiye.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Paritapa shrantiye, okay.
परितापश्रान्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे. Dasakam 90.
This is a 4-liner. Yeah, go ahead.
वृकभृगुमुनिमोहिन्यं वारिषादिवृत्तेषु अयि तव हि महत्त्वं सर्वशर्वादिजैत्रं सितमिह परमात्मन्निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि तदवभातं तद्विरूपं तवैव मूर्तित्रये.
Fourth line, second word, yadavabhatam. Okay. Ya, first letter is ya, yadavabhatam. Fourth line.
Oh, I have it as tadavabhatam.
Just change it to ya, yadavabhatam.
So, yeah, okay. मूर्तित्रयेश्वर सदाशिव पञ्चकं यते प्राहुः परात्मवपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेश्वरस्तु सविकुन्तपदस्तमेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपदे त्रिभागे तत्रापि सत्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहुः दाता तु सत्त्वविरलो रजसैव पूर्णः सत्त्वोक्ततत्त्वमपि चास्ति तमो विकार चेष्टाधिकं च तव शङ्करनाम्नि मूर्तौ तं च.
You can pause there. Madhu can do the rest. So the first word mattum tatrapi a sound, okay? First word, first line.
Tatrapi satvika.
Yeah.
Correct, Rajesh?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
त्रिमूर्त्यतिगतं परपूरुषं त्वां सर्वात्मनापि खलु सर्वमयत्वहेतोः शंसन्त्युपासनविधौ तदपि स्वतस्तु त्वद्रूपमित्यतिदृढं बहुनः प्रमाणम् श्रीशङ्करोऽपि भगवान् सकलेषु तावत् त्वामेव मानयति यो न हि पक्षपाती त्वन्निष्ठमेव स हि नाम सहस्रकादिव्याख्यद्भवत्स्तुतिपरश्च गतिं गतोऽन्ते मूर्तित्रयातिगमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे खलु त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम् समस्तसारे च पुराणसङ्ग्रहे विसंशयं त्वन्महिमैव वर्ण्यते त्रिमूर्तियुक्सत्यपदत्रिभागतः परं पदं ते कथितं न शूलिनः यद्ब्राह्मकल्पमिह भागवतत्वदीयः स्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशधात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगाद श्रीमाधवः शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे.
Madhu, first line, last word, Bhagavata Dvitiya.
यद्ब्राह्मकल्पमिह भागवतद्वितीयः
Yeah.
स्कन्धो.
And then I heard you say Kalpam. Do you have an im there? It's only Kalpa, not.
Kalpamiha.
Okay, so I don't think there's an im there. Because
Yad Brahma Kalpamiha.
Brahma, yeah, Kalpa, the last letter. I'm hearing an im sound. There is no im sound there. It's Brahma Kalpa Iha.
Iha. I
Yeah.
have Kalpamiha.
Okay, I'll follow up. I don't think there is an im there, but I'll get back to you. Okay,
So,
because
it should be Kalpa Iha.
yeah, it's Kalpa Iha. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I in my book it is Kalpamiha.
Okay, that's what I heard you say that, but yeah.
ये स्वप्रकृत्य निगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढयैव तदीयभक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानिवचोऽर्थवादैः.
First line, Prakritya Nuguna.
ये स्वप्रकृत्य नुगुणा गिरिशं भजन् भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवादविरुद्धवादौ त्रेधार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्थाः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्य त्वत् okay.
Go ahead.
तत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाद्याः यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यभिदृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमयभागवतोपगीत क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिभरं परात्मन्. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Okay, so we'll continue with 91 right now. We'll do from stanza 2. Lalita Rajagopalan, you can be student, and just 1 second. Yeah, and Shailaja Praveen, you can be student. So stanza 2. Bhuman kahena vacha muhurapi manasa twadbala preritatma yadyat kurve samastam tadiga paratare tvaya savarpayami jatya pihashvapakah त्वयि निहितमनः कर्म वागीन्द्रियार्थ प्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनास्त्वत्पदाद् विप्रवर्यः. So we are seeing in this the path of devotion, the bhakti margam. And in the first stanza, it starts by saying that, any fear that we have, because of association with ourselves, because of which we get various kinds of fears, because we are afraid of losing things which are connected to us. He says the only path, in the first stanza, he said, was devotion to your feet. Because this is going to talk about how devotion is the better option compared to everything. We're going to talk about karma yoga in the later stages, later chapter, Dasakams. So the second stanza, I think you all know this. So this is exactly the same meaning. The first two lines are the same meaning as Kayena, Vacha, Manasendriye, what you're saying. He's saying, Bhuman, oh Lord, whatever I'm doing with Kayena through my body, whatever I'm doing through Vacha, whatever I'm saying through my words, then again, Muhurapi Manasa, whatever I'm thinking through my mind, right? And then whatever I have inherently in me, right? So we kind of talked about, like in Buddhyatma Nava Prakriti Kayena Vacha, it says, so whatever I'm using through my buddhi, through my intellect, whatever I'm thinking through my mind, and then whatever I'm naturally born with, right? So we all carry a lot of karma, which we're going to speak about later in this. So there's a natural tendencies we have, the vasanas we have inherited from so many previous lives. We tend to behave in a certain way. So whatever I'm doing naturally, because of that, everything that I'm doing, Tvaya savarpayami, Tvai arpayami. So it's just some surrendering it to you. He says the reason that is very important is just so that you don't get attached, you don't create more karmas, which we'll see a little bit later. And it says here, the second one is most important. It says that even if there is a person of a really low caste, whatever you consider as low, not by birth or by character or occupation, however you think somebody is low, he says if that person has completely resigned his body, mind, and words, he's way far superior to somebody who is born as a Brahmana or who has everything but is not doing that. Right? So he says it doesn't matter. Essentially, it's just saying it doesn't matter if you're born as a Brahmana or you're born as a Kshatriya or Vaishya or Sudra, whatever it is, right? Or no matter what you're doing, which country you're born. The point being is, if you don't surrender yourself completely, you are not superior enough. Right? That is what decides the superiority, and not anything else that you actually do, not what you have or what you offer to Bhagavan also doesn't matter, which we have seen in so many examples. It is who has completely surrendered himself or herself to Bhagavan. That is what is the primary deciding factor there. So, Bhuman, Kayena, Vacha, Muhurapi, Manasa, comma, Tvat, Bala, Preritatma, comma, Yadyat, Kurve, Samastam, Tadiha, Paratare, Tvaya, Savarpayami. The second line, there is no pause. Bhuman kahena vacha muhurapi manasa twadbala preritatma yadyat kurve samastam tadiha paratare tvaya savarpayami.
भूमन् कायेन वाचा मुहुरपि मनसा त्वत्फलप्रेरितात्मा यद्यत् कुर्वे समस्तं तदिह वरदरे त्वय्य समर्पयामि भूमन् कायेन वाचा मुहुरपि मनसा त्वत्फलप्रेरितात्मा यद्यत् कुर्वे समस्तं तदिह वरदरे त्वय्य समर्पयामि
भूमन् कायेन वाचा मुहुरपि मनसा त्वत्बलप्रेरितात्मा यद्यत् कुर्वे समस्तं तदिह परतरे त्वय्य सावर्पयामि भूमन् कायेन वाचा मुहुरपि मनसा त्वत्बलप्रेरितात्मा यद्यत् कुर्वे समस्तं तदिह परतरे त्वय्य सावर्पयामि
Jatya piha swapakaha, that is goes away, visarga comma swapakaha. Tvai nihita manaha, put a ich sound, tvai nihita manah, karma vag indriyartha, then put a plus, karma vag indriyartha, prano vishwam punite, then a comma. So for third line, comma after swapakaha, the whole thing together, after vishwam punite, comma, na tu vimukha manas tvat padat vipravaryaha. Jatyapiha swapakaha त्वयि निहित मनः कर्म वागिन्द्रियार्थ प्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुख मनास्त्वत्पदात् विप्रवर्यः.
जात्यावेगस्वभागस्त्वयि निहितमनः कर्मवागीन्द्रियार्थ प्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनास्त्वत्पदाद् विप्रवर्यः.
Lalita, third line la shwapak, the is வந்து we are removing, putting a pause there, visarga comma, so shwapakah.
sorry. जात्यावेगस्वपाकः त्वयि निहितमनः कर्मवागीन्द्रियार्थ प्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनास्त्व இங்க வந்து மனாசா இல்ல
Puni, yeah, okay, that just continues, yeah, Vinay.
प्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनास्त्वत्पदाद् विप्रवर्यः.
जात्यापीहश्वपाकः त्वयि निहितमनः कर्म वागिन्द्रियार्थप्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनस्त्वत्पदाद्विप्रवर्यः जात्यापीहश्वपाकः त्वयि निहितमनः कर्म वागिन्द्रियार्थप्राणो विश्वं पुनीते न तु विमुखमनस्त्वत्पदाद्विप्रवर्यः.
Answer 3.
ராஜேஷ் அந்த அந்த ஸ்பிளிட் வந்து லாஸ்ட் லைன்ல மனாஸ்த்வத் பதாத்வி அப்படி பிரேக் பண்ணுமா இல்ல மனாஸ்
Tvat padat and the dvi வந்து it becomes a it and a v. So tvat padat vipravaryaha.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Vipravarya refers to somebody is like a brahmana, one who's twice born. So vipravaryaha. Answer 3. भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयाद् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्तिबुद्ध्या निरुन्ध्यां माया विद्धेतु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायाधिनातं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्. Little bit starts getting into Advaitam here. So the first he starts by saying that bhiti, so the fear, little bit of continuation of what we said in the first one. He says the fear we all have, and you can take a step back and contemplate on with yourself. Any fear you have is because you are feeling that there is somebody who is different from you or something that is different from you. That's why you fear something else, right? But at the end of the day, we all keep hearing that it is the same Paramatma who is there in every Paramanu, in every subatomic particle. It is the same Paramanu that is there, the same Bhagavan is there. But somehow we feel different with everybody. We all feel different from each other, right? That is natural. So that's because we haven't come to that realization. So because we have not come to the realization and we don't see the same Bhagavan in everybody else, and the same thing that is there in everybody else, we feel that people are different. And then because of that, our mind now, it sees this duality with everything. And then our mind always wanders. So it says even in your dream and your imagination, we imagine something, then we imagine that something is going to happen. Then we start worrying about something that has not had happened, thinking it is going to happen. And with that, we create more conditions and boundaries. And this is how fear develops. Fear always is from something that has not yet happened majority of the time. It says the primary reason for that is the mind. So he says the first thing is you have to understand this. You cannot immediately fix this thing. So there's one very nice story in this, not in Narayaneeyam, but related to this. Most of you might have heard of this. There was a king called Janaka, and the Janaka was like extremely rich, very powerful king, right? And everything was going fine. So one day, he has this, he's having this dream in sleep that there is a battle that is actually happening, and his kingdom loses the battle. And so the kingdom loses, the king naturally has to run away. So he's running away from his kingdom. And there's nobody, his entire army is gone. There's nobody there to support. He doesn't have any of his money, and he doesn't have his royal clothes. He's as he's a poor guy, as if he's a beggar. He's wandering around, not getting any food. Then finally, after 2 days, he's extremely thirsty. Finally, he sees little bit of water, right, from somebody's leftover water on the floor, on the ground. And he goes there and he tries to drink that water, when suddenly some dog or something comes and then ends up drinking that water also. So he then wakes up from his dream, right? Saying that what actually happened, this felt absolutely real. I felt like I was starving. I felt like I was thirsty. I wanted to drink that water. I saw this dog come and kick me out. So the next day he goes to his kingdom and says, I am now sitting as the king, but I didn't feel that last night. I absolutely do not. I can assure you that I actually went through that experience, right? He says, what is real? Is this real, or was a dream real? Right? So at that time, when minister says, and this is in Hindi, this minister says that, na ye sach, na wo sach. Neither is this true, nor is that true. He says, keval tu hi sach. Only your soul is true. Even this, your soul is experiencing. That doesn't mean that you are not feeling this. But it is not real, because at the end of the day, the body is nothing, right? You're going to leave the body and go. The soul does not get impacted with anything that is actually going on. It is just experiencing what it wants to experience through this body. So that's what the key message here is. One has to come to that realization. Now, how do you come to that realization and how do you not get worried and not getting fear? It says only through tam tvam bhaktya mahatya. So devotion to you, constantly worshipping you through bhakti, I will be able to overcome this fear of what is actually there. And then eventually I'll stop seeing this duality. And once you start seeing that, then you don't worry about what is happening to you right now. It's a long process, but he says that's a step one. If you cannot understand it through knowledge, then he says the one way to get to that realization is through bhakti. So bhitir nama dvitiyat bhavati nanu, comma, then manaha, put a ich, manah kalpitam cha dvitiyam, comma, tenaikyabhyasa shilo hridayamiha, comma, yata shakti buddhya nirundhyam. भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयात् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्ति बुद्ध्या निरुन्ध्याम्.
भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयात् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्ति बुद्ध्या निरन्त्याम्.
Well, it's the first line, after nanu, there is a pause. In the first line.
Okay, sorry. भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयाद् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्ति बुद्ध्या निरन्ध्याम्.
भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयात् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्ति बुद्ध्या निरुन्ध्याम्. भीतिर्नाम द्वितीयात् भवति ननु मनः कल्पितं च द्वितीयं तेनैक्याभ्यासशीलो हृदयमिह यथा शक्ति बुद्ध्या निरुन्ध्याम्.
माया विद्धे तु तस्मिन्, कॉमा, पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायाधिनाथं, कॉमा, तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या, कॉमा, सततम, I'm just breaking at that ma, सततम अनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्. माया विद्धे तु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायाधिनाथं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्.
माया विद्धेतु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायादिनाथं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्. माया विद्धेतु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायादिनाथं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्.
माया विद्धेतु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायाधिनाथं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्. माया विद्धेतु तस्मिन् पुनरपि न तथा भाति मायादिनाथं तं त्वां भक्त्या महत्या सततमनुभजन्नीश भीतिं विजह्याम्.
And so forth. भक्तेरुत्पत्ति वृद्धि तव चरणजुषां संगमेनैव पुंसाम् आसाद्ये पुण्यभाजां श्रिय इव जगति श्रीमतां संगमेन तत्संगो देव भूयान् मम खलु सततं तन्मुखात् उन्मिषद्भिः त्वन्माहात्म्य प्रकारैर्भवति च सुदृढा भक्तिरुद्धूतपापा. My grandfather, my mother's father used to know Narayaneeyam completely by heart, and he always used to say this, So this one is telling. So in the previous stanza, this particular stanza I'm saying. So this previous stanza we spoke about how you need to have devotion. That is extremely important because that is the one which is going to get you out of fear. But it says, but devotion cannot come to everybody. It says a devotion in a particular time, you have to have some purva vasana of something that you must have done to even get a spark of the devotion, right? Otherwise, it's not going to come from 0 to 100. It might get you from 0 to 1. It will get you a spark. So how do you grow that spark? It says the only way is, if you want to become rich, what do? Do you hang out with poor people? Just imagine, right? You will not hang out with poor people. If somebody says, I've lost all my money making bad bets in the stock market, hang out with me. I'll tell you how to become rich because I know how to lose. You'll never hang out with that person to make money, right? You'll only hang out with the person who's been successful. So he says, then if you have to get more bhakti, what do? He says, you have to hang out with people who have more bhakti. He says, that is the only way. By being surrounding yourself with people who are very devoted, naturally your bhakti is also going to go up. He says, the only option here is Tava Charana Jusham Sangame Naiva Pumsam. That is the only option, is the Sangam, the association you are actually having. If that is with people who have a lot of bhakti, naturally, unknowing to your bhakti is also going to increase. He says that is the only way out. That's why they say the satsangam is very important. Which satsangam you maintain, depending on what your priorities are, right? And that's where it says, because the people who are completely immersed in your bhakti, all they do is you keep hearing and talking about all the leela, whichever Bhagavan it is, Krishna or Shiva or whichever Bhagavan your favorite is, they keep talking about the leelas of the Bhagavan. Taton Mahatmya Prakaraihi. They keep talking about your greatness. They keep talking about your names, which is the Sahasranams. So with all of this, that is how you end up marinating yourself and then increasing your bhakti. So essentially it says that's the only way for you to increase your bhakti, is you have to surround yourself with people who are also deep in devotion. Bhakter utpatti vriddhi, tava charanajusam sangame naiva pumsam. So put a im at the end of that line, pumsam, Next line, masadhye becomes asadhye. Asadhye punya bhajam, Shriya iva jagati Srimatam sangamena. Here Shri comes 2 times, refers to prosperity or wealth. Saying if you need Shri, if you need prosperity, you always hang up with Srimatam sangamena. You always hang out with people who have prosperity, right? So very similar, bhakti is no different. Bhakter utpatti vriddhi tava charana jusham sangamena pumsam asadhye punya bhajam Shriya iva jagate Srimatam sangamena.
भक्तेरुत्पत्ति वृद्धि तव चरणजुषां सङ्गमेनैव पुंसाम् आसाते पुण्यभाजां श्रियैव जगति श्रीमतां सङ्गमेन भक्तेरुत्पत्ति वृद्धि तव चरणजुषां सङ्गमेनैव पुंसाम् आसादे पुण्यभाजां श्रियैव जगति श्रीमतां सङ्गमेन.
The first line, the vriddhi kapram comma. I felt like you were pausing after charana jusha, but vriddhi and then comma. Okay, first line.
Bhakter utpatti vriddhi tava charana jusham sangamena pumsam आसाद्ये पुण्य भाजाम श्रियैव जगति श्रीमतां संगमेन भक्तेर उत्पत्ति वृद्धि तव चरण जुषां संगमेनैव पुंसाम् आसाद्ये पुण्य भाजाम श्रियैव जगति श्रीमतां संगमेन.
Tat sango deva bhuyan mama khalu satatam, tanmukad unmishadbihi. So put the visarga at the end of that line, tanmukad unmishadbihi. Next line, the is, if you have it, that will go away. Twan mahatmya prakarai bhavati cha sudrudha, bhaktir uddhuta papa. So when that bhakti comes, it says it will eradicate all the sins that you have committed and will commit, right? That's how you wipe out those sins, is through this intense bhakti. Sudrudha is very firm devotion. If you're getting very firm devotion to you, the sins will get eradicated. Tatsangho deva bhuyan mama khalu satatam tanmukat unmishadbihi tvanmahatmya prakareir bhavati cha sudrudha bhaktiruddhuta papa.
तत्सङ्गो देवभूयान् मम खलु सततं तन्मुखातुन्मिषद्भिः त्वन्माहात्म्यप्रकारैर्भवति च सुदृढा भक्तिरुद्धूतबापा तत्सङ्गो देवभूयान् मम खलु सततं तन्मुखात् उन्मिषद्भिः त्वन्माहात्म्यप्रकारैर्भवति च सुदृढा भक्तिरुद्धूतबापा
तत्सङ्गो देवभूयान् मम खलु सततं तन्मुखात् उन्मिषद्भिः त्वन्माहात्म्यप्रकारैर्भवति च सुदृढा भक्तिरुद्धूतपापा तत्सङ्गो देवभूयान् मम खलु सततं तन्मुखात् उन्मिषद्भिः त्वन्माहात्म्यप्रकारैर्भवति च सुदृढा भक्तिरुद्धूतपापा.
Answer fine. Shreyo margeshu bhaktavadika bahumater janma karmani bhuyo gayan kshemani namanyapi tadubhayata pradrutam pradrutatma udyadasa kadachit kuhashidapi rudhan kwapi garjan pragayan unmadiva pranutyan ayukuru karunam lokabhahyascharyam. Says among the various marga, among the various paths to get union, to get liberated, which is, there's no hard and fast rule. You can follow Bhakti Margam, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or you can follow the Ashtanga Yoga. We discussed Ashtanga Yoga in Dasakam 4. It was extremely complicated. Then we're going to have a little bit more conversation on Karma Yoga or Jnana. Either is okay. But here, Bhaktipad is saying the easiest is Bhakti Yoga. And when you learn through all three, you'll see why Bhakti Yoga is relatively easy. So he says, amongst all of these things, Bhakti Yoga is easy because all you got to do is you just have to sing, gayan, sing could also mean chant or talk, say things, doesn't matter. All the things about your janma, karmani, bhuyaha, about your names, about your activities, about your various incarnations, right? By doing that, just by saying that, you get kshemam, you actually get prosperous, you get grace from all of that, right? Like even for those, like I say, Sahasranamam is the best thing because all it does is very simple relatively. It just says the names and there's nothing beyond that, right? And even Bhishma in that, it said that, if you remember the line, Yani namani gaunani vikyatani mahatmanaha rishibeh parigitani tani vakshyami bhutaye. He says these are not just the normal names because there are thousands and lakhs of names. But I'm picking the select 1,000 names which the greatest of rishis meditate on. That's why it is picked as those 1,000 names. It's not new names that Bhishma gave, right? So he says just by contemplating or thinking on the names or saying those names is good enough. Anyway, he says that is why this is what you call the Bhakti Margam becomes actually much more easy. And he says once you get into that Bhakti Margam, when you marinate yourself well, he says I may, where is that word I'm looking for? Udyat hasaha. Sometimes I may burst into laughter. Kovachidapi rudan. Sometimes I may actually cry. Sometimes garjan. Sometimes I may roar. Sometimes I may pragayan. I may feel like singing. Sometimes I may dance like a madman. He says that's because the people who do that, we look at them and says, how is this person crying? Why is this person crying in the temple? Or how is this person suddenly feel like singing in the temple? Or somebody is dancing. We feel like, how is this person just suddenly dancing? He says that's because that's so when you have a lot of bhakti, it just naturally comes. It's not like something they want to do. It just naturally comes. He says, may I be blessed with that kind of a bhakti like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had, where he used to like dance like a madman, not caring about what everybody else is talking about. So here, this is a little bit of a prayer saying, please give me that kind of a bhakti so I can be like your other great devotees, so that at any point in time, I'll be able to dance or sing or cry or laugh or roar, whatever it is, out of bhakti. We need to reach that level of bhakti. Shreyo margeshu, bhakta vadika bahumatir janma karmani bhuyo, then put a plus, gayan kshemani namanyapi. So the first line after shreyo margeshu, there is a comma. Then the whole thing comes together till namanyapi, comma. Tadubayataha, put a F. Tadubayatah pradrutam pradrutatma. श्रेयो मार्गेषु भक्तावधिक बहुमतेर् जन्म कर्माणि भूयो गायन् क्षेमानि नामान्यपि तदुभयतः प्रद्रुतं प्रद्रुतात्मा.
ராஜேஷ் ஜி, ஒரே ஒரு கொஸ்டின், சாரி டு பாதர் யூ. என்னோட புக்ல வந்து பிரத்ருதம் பிரத்ருதாத்மா கொடுத்துருக்கு. இஸ் இட் இக் க ஒரு த த
த பிரத்ருதம் தா சவுண்ட் பிரத்ருதம்.
நாட் லைக் த பிரகிருதி பிரகிருதம், நாட்
இல்ல அது இல்ல. பிரத்ருதம் பிரத்ருதாத்மா.
ஓகே, தேங்க் யூ.
श्रेयो मार्गेषु भक्तावधिक बहुमति जन्म कर्माणि भूयो गायन् क्षेमानि नामन्यपि तदुभयद प्रद्रुतं प्रद्रुतात्मा.
செகண்ட் லைன்ல நாமான்யபி, அதுக்கப்புறம் காமா.
नामान्यपि, ओके. श्रेयो मार्गेषु भक्तावधिक बहुमति जन्म कर्माणि भूयो गायन् क्षेमानि नामान्यपि ततुभयद प्रद्रुतं प्रद्रुतात्मा.
श्रेयो मार्गेषु भक्तावधिक बहुमतिर्जन्म कर्माणि भूयो गायन् क्षेमाणि नामान्यपि तदुभयतः प्रद्रुतं प्रद्रुतात्मा. श्रेयो मार्गेषु भक्तावधिक बहुमतिर्जन्म कर्माणि भूयो गायन् क्षेमाणि नामान्यपि तदुभयतः प्रद्रुतं प्रद्रुतात्मा.
उद्यद्धासः, पुट इह, उद्यद्धासः कदाचित् कुहचिदपि रुदन्, comma, क्वापि गर्जन्, then put a plus at the end of that line because you're going to join that word. Quapi garjan pragayan unmadiva. See, if you have a double na and a u there, it's just a in. Pragayan and unmadiva. So quapi garjan pragayan unmadiva pranutyan, and then a comma. So here it just talks about the various things. Pragayan is to sing loudly, then garjan is to roar, and then dance or whatever is happening. So quapi garjan pragayan unmadiva pranutyan, comma, ai kuru karunam loka bahyashareyam. So Karuna, please show compassion on me so I also get similar feelings. Udhyadasah kadachit kuhachidapi rudan क्वापि गर्जन् प्रगायन् उन्मादीव प्रणुत्यन् अयि कुरु करुणां लोकबाह्यश्चरेयम्.
उद्यद्दासः कदाचित् गुहचिदभिरुदन् क्वापि गर्जन् प्रगायन् उन्मादीव प्रणुद्यन्नयि गुरुकरुणां लोकबाह्यश्चरेयम्.
Fourth line la pranutyan and then a comma.
Pranrutyan.
Pranrutyan, comma, and then ayikuru karuna.
Oh, ayikuru karuna. Okay, one second. Udyadasah kadachit गुगचिदभिरुदन् क्वापि गर्जन् प्रगायन् उन्मादीव प्रणृत्यन् अयि गुरुकरुणां लोकभाग्यश्चरेयम्.
उद्यद्दासः कदाचित् कुहचिदपि रुदन् क्वापि गर्जन् प्रगायन् उन्मादीव प्रणृत्यन् अयि कुरु करुणां लोकबाह्यश्चरेयम्. उद्यद्दासः कदाचित् कुहचिदपि रुदन् क्वापि गर्जन् प्रगायन् उन्मादीव प्रणृत्यन् अयि कुरु करुणां लोकबाह्यश्चरेयम्.
That's a 6. भूतान्येतानि भूतात्मकमपि सकलं पक्षिमत्स्यान् मृगाधीन् Martyan mitrani shatrunapi yamitamatiस्त्वन्मयान् यानमानि त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्धेन् मम तव कृपया Bhakti-dhardyam viragaस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधोऽपि च भुवनपते yatna-bhedam vinaiva. So he says, like we said initially, is to see the same Bhagavan in everything, right? So he says, at the end of the day, every single thing which is in this earth, which is organic, it's made up of the five Panchabhutas, any combination of those Panchabhutas. So he says, even those Panchabhutas, which I know long time back, we saw in 6 and 7 and everything, when the whole Hiranyandam was getting formed, how from the Purusha, everything else also came. So he says, you have to start realizing that everything has come from one source. So even that Panchabhutas have come from the same source, and from those Panchabhutas are the various other mortals and, what you call Pakshi, birds, Matsya, animals or aquatic animals or other animal fishes, all have actually come from the same thing, because of which you cannot differentiate, is what he's saying, right? I won't treat anybody different as Mitra, as friends, or Shatru, as enemies. You cannot see. Now, of course, we all don't see it like that, right? If some animal or some wild animal comes, we'll absolutely run for our life, right? Because we don't see that yet. He says that state will only come when you have the greatest, highest level of devotion, like we saw in the previous stanzas. Because when you look at the great Mahatmas, whether it be Ramana Maharshi or any of these great Mahatmas, they never worried about some animal coming or anything. In fact, all of those animals used to get tamed around them because they had the greatest of devotion. So he says, you have to give me that level. I have to achieve that level of devotion to even come and comprehend that and not do it. But he says, how do you get there? Says the way I will get to that is continuing Tvat Sevayam, continuing to worship you, right? And continuing to be devoted to you. Eventually, I will get that strong devotion. It has to build. It cannot go to 100 on day one. So it will build gradually. And once the devotion comes, then I will also get viraga. Viraga means getting vairag, getting dispassion, which means not getting attached to things. Right? So once that bhakti comes, then you're going to see everything the same in everybody else eventually, and also not get attached to anything else. And you don't have to do this separately. Now, when we talk about Jnana Yoga, we'll talk about how you can also think about this, contemplate on this, and understand this, right? But Jnana Yoga is extremely hard, because even I can give lectures for hours on Jnana Yoga, but it's difficult to comprehend it and accept it, internalize it, which is very, very difficult, right? It's easy to talk, but difficult to internalize it. So he says, that's why he says, don't worry about going through that very complicated levels of understanding. Just follow Bhakti Yoga. It'll naturally come your way. That's why in the previous one, he says Bhakti Yoga is great. But everybody, according to their preference, can follow whatever they want. But he's just saying this is relatively easy. Bhutan yetani bhutatmakamapi sakalam, comma, pakshi matsyan mrigadin, comma, martyan mitrani shatrunapi, comma, yamita matis twan mayan yanamani. Bhutanyetani bhutatmakamapi sakalam pakshi-matsyan mrigadhin martyan mitrani shatrunapi yamitamatis-tvanmayan yanamani.
Bhutanyetani bhutatmakamapi sakalam pakshi-matsyan mrigadhin martyan mitrani shatrunapi yamitamatis-tvanmayan yanamani.
First line little after sakalam, comma.
Purila.
First line bhutatmakamapi sakalam and then comma.
Bhutanyetani bhutadmakamapi sakalam pakshi-matsyan mrigadin mardyan mitrani shatrunapi yamitamatis-tvanmayan yana.
இல்ல அந்த சத்ருனபி அதுக்கப்புறம் again pause is there, second line.
சத்ருனபி யமிதமதிஸ்த்வன்மயான் யானமானி.
இல்ல அந்த சத்ருனபிக்கு அப்புறம் there's a pause. So martyan mitrani shatrunapi, pause. Yamitamatiस्त्वन्मयान् yanamani.
भूतान्येतानि भूतात्मकमपि सकलं पक्षिमत्स्यान् मृगातीन् मर्त्यान् मित्राणि शत्रूनपि यमितमतिस्त्वन्मयान् யானமானி யாமானி நிறைய கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கோம். யானமானி கொஞ்சம் டஃபா இருக்கு.
Is ஆனமானி, அது வந்து மயானி ஆனமானி, two words அது.
ஓகே
அது நீ and becomes in yeah there, yeah.
ஓகே.
भूतान्येतानि भूतात्मकमपि सकलं पक्षिमत्स्यान् मृगादीन् मर्त्यान् मित्राणि शत्रूनपि यमितमतिस्त्वन्मयान्यानमानि भूतान्येतानि भूतात्मकमपि सकलं पक्षिमत्स्यान् मृगादीन् मर्त्यान् मित्राणि शत्रूनपि यमितमतिस्त्वन्मयान्यानमानि
त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया, bhakti दार्ढ्यं viragas. So put a plus at the end of that line, so that line will go together. Viragas twat tat twasyava bodho. So there's like multiple it and a ta coming there. So twat tat twasyava bodhopi cha bhuvanapate, comma. So third line comma after kripaya, fourth line after bhuvanapate, comma. Yatna bhedam vinaiva.
ராஜேஷ் எனக்கு ஒரே டவுட் இங்க விராகத்னு சொன்னாலா விராகஸ்ன்னு சொன்னாலா?
Viragas is, and if you have viragaha, if you have a visarga there, then that becomes a is there to just join those two lines.
இல்ல
So viragas tvattat.
ஓகே, அந்த கிளஸ்டர்ல இத்து வரும்னு நினைச்சேன், வராதா?
Is because twa is coming later, right? It is coming later, right? So another it's viragaha, so that will take a is sound because of the it coming later.
Okay.
So viragas tvattat.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया भक्तिदार्ढ्यं विरागस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधोऽपि च भुवनपते यत्नभेदं विनैव
त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया भक्तिदार्ढ्यं विरागस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधोऽपि च भुवनपते यत्नभेदं विनैव त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया भक्तिदार्ढ्यं विरागस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधेऽपि च भुवनपते यत्नभेदं विनैव.
The third line, second last word, bhakti dardyam, ir and then dyam, bhakti dardyam.
இல்ல பக்தி தாடர்யம்னு இருக்கு.
இல்ல தாடர்யம் வராது. அந்த
இட்டு சொல்றேல. ஓகே.
And because it's a id, right, which is coming before the ir, so the ir will go ahead of it. So bhakti dardyam.
Oh, dardyam. Okay.
Dardyam, because id, it's not, if it's not a id, it's a full da, okay, then it is, you are right, bhakti dardyam nu varum, because it's a id, it's bhakti dardyam.
Okay, bhakti dardyam. Okay.
त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया भक्तिदार्ढ्यं विरागस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधोऽपि च भुवनपते यत्नभेदं विनैव त्वत्सेवायां हि सिद्ध्येन् मम तव कृपया भक्तिदार्ढ्यं विरागस्त्वत्तत्त्वस्यावबोधोऽपि च भुवनपते यत्नभेदं विनैव.
Bhakti dad, so it ir or ir and it.
Yeah, wait, let me just type it 1 second.
Also, I have one more question.
I just put in the chat, dardyam.
And the next line, is it twat tat vasyava, or is it twat tat twasyava?
Twasyava. It's all, each of them starts with the it. Twat, tat, twasyava. Okay, we'll switch halfway. Padmaja, Ramesh, you can be student, and Preeti in this one.
I'm sorry, come again. Tvat tat vasyava, right?
Correct.
Vasya.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Tvat tat tvasya. Chatla poten English there. So that's a 7. No muhyan kshutridaadhyairbhavasarani bhavaihi त्वन्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्ता सातत्यशाली निमिषलवमपि त्वत्पदादप्रकम्पः इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नखेन्दोः अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेयम्. So some of these things will look, the meaning will look, how can we even get to that point? But then later on, he'll give you an easy way to get there, right? There's always a solution at the very end of it. So he says, once you get that, the firm devotion, like we spoke about, like the bhakti dhardyam we saw in the previous one, when we get that firm devotion, he says, then these other sufferings that people have, which is the concept of hunger, the concept of thirst, all of that will not affect me, because when you think of people who are fasting on Ekadashi day, there are people who fast, you're supposed to fast from the 10th night, right? From Dashami night all the way to Dwadashi morning. There are people who don't eat anything at all, right? Now, if you try doing it, it will work if you are occupied in something. But if you're not occupied in something and you're sitting gently, you will always feel like eating, right? So when we go to Parayanam, it's very easy to fast because you're just chanting, you're just praying, right? So he says, eventually, when you come to the point of supreme devotion, like how you get occupied in your work today and you miss up eating your lunch, he says, similarly, you will end up missing. You won't feel that hunger or thirst if you're so devoted to the point that you don't think of it, right? He says, at that point, you'll come to a state where you are not bothered about anything else that is actually happening, right? And then even for Tvatpada, even for Nimisha Lavamapi, even for a fraction of a second, he says, I don't want to deviate from thinking about you. He says, that is the amount of bhakti I want to get to, that every second, it is not like, okay, I'm going to devote 15 minutes every day to pray. I mean, that's how you have to start. But, he says, that's not the point. It's like not even a second, I should not think about you. I should always be thinking about you, right? So with that, he says, that is the amount of bhakti I actually need to do, because then he says, my mind, which is the biggest problem everybody has, is not going to be affected by anything else that is actually going on. Because you could be sitting and you do not have zero problems in your life. You could sit and your mind will create problems for you because it will wander and make assumptions of things, right? He says, I have to get my mind under control. And the only way I can put my mind under control is this constant devotion. And then my mind also will stop worrying about other things. So, no muhyan shut tridadhyair bhava sarani bhavaihi. So that is goes away. Put a visarga comma bhavaihi. Twan nilinasha yatvat. So put a it at the end of that line. Twan nilinasha yatvat, comma. Next line, if you have a ich, that will go away. Chinta satatya shali nimisha lavamapi tvat padat aprakampaha. If you want to break at the da, tvat padat aprakampaha. So second line, there is no pause. First line after bhavaihi. No muhyan kshutridaadhyairbhavasarani bhavaihi त्वन्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्ता सातत्यशाली निमिषलवमपि त्वत्पदादप्रकम्पः.
नो मुह्यन् क्षुद्रदाद्यैर्भव त्वन्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्ता सातत्यशाली निमिषलवमपि त्वत्पदात् प्रकम्पः. नो मुह्यन् क्षुद्रदाद्यैर्भवसरणिभवैः त्वन्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्ता सातत्यशाली निमिषलवमपि त्वत्पदात् प्रकम्पः.
नो मुह्यन् क्षुद्रदाद्यैर्भवसरणिभवैः वह्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्ताशातत्यशाली निमिषलमवपित्वत्पदात् अप्रकम्पः नो मुह्यन् क्षुत्थृडात्यैर्भवसरणिभवैः वह्निलीनाशयत्वात् चिन्तासातत्यशाली निमिषलवमपि त्वत्पदात् अप्रकम्पः
इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टि व्यसन विरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात्. Put a it at the end of that line, and that word cannot be broken. Maikatwavabodhat. Next line, if you have a ij, that goes away. There are two ij, so one of them remains. Jyotsnabhis tvanna kendhoho. The ra goes away, visarga, comma. Tvanna kendhoho, comma. Next word starts with the a. Adika shishirite natmana sanchareyam. So here the word ishta, anishteshu. So it's saying that likes and dislikes. We all like things, we all don't like things, even when it comes to food, right? But that's why they say, even the great sannyasis, they say that they cannot go to the same house or even the same street 2 days in a row, because then they'll start knowing that house number 10 always makes good food and 11 does not make good food. So they'll get attached to it, right? So they should always say that whatever comes is what comes, right? And they cannot go and beg in the same house twice, right? It's because then you'll have that separation of attachment and disattachment to things. इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नखेन्दोः अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेह्यम्.
इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नखेन्तो अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेयम्.
Last line la त्वन्नखेन्दोः visarga.
त्वन्नखेन्दोः.
Yeah.
इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नखेन्तो. அது வந்து தோவா தோவா
त्वन्नखेन्दोः
त्वन्नखेन्दोः अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेयम्.
इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नकेन्दोः अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेयम्. इष्टानिष्टेषु तुष्टिव्यसनविरहितो मायिकत्वावबोधात् ज्योत्स्नाभिस्त्वन्नकेन्दोः अधिकशिशिरितेनात्मना सञ्चरेयम्.
Translate. भूतेष्वेषु त्वदैक्यस्मृतिसमधिगतौ नाधिकारोऽधुना चेत् त्वत्प्रेम त्वत्कमैत्री जडमतिषु कृपा द्वित्सु भूयादुपेक्षा अर्चायां वा समर्चा कुतुकमुरुतर श्रद्धया वर्धतां मे त्वत्संसेवी तथापि द्रुतमुपलभते भक्तलोकोत्तमत्वम्. Now here, so everything that he spoke about being indifferent to people, indifferent to things, indifferent to being attachment or non-attachment. So he's very clearly saying that it is not easy. You have to reach a level of readiness to be able to get there. We all get it, right? You have to reach a level of maturity. So, but many of us may not have it right now, right? So he says the best way for now, if you haven't reached that state, the best way for now is Tvat prema. The people may have love and friendliness for your people. At least start with people who are devoted to Bhagavan. At least start with them, because then you'll be able to associate easily with them, right? So at least have love for them. Tvat prema, to the people who are loving you. And then, kind people who don't like you, don't hate them. Just have kindness for the ignorant. It's okay. It's everybody's choice. You don't have to force anybody to do anything, right? And so that way, you don't have to hate people, but you can be indifferent to people you don't like. That's a starting point. That's what he's literally saying. He says you don't have to get to that end state on day one. You can start by liking some people, but like people who are devoted to you more, and then be indifferent to people who don't like you. Don't have to hate them. And then continue to archayam, continue to worship. You don't have to imagine this Brahman who is formless and try to worry about meditation. He says, worship an image that you like of any Bhagavan or God or goddess that you like. Do that. Start there. Now, archayam, continue to worship that, because with that, gradually your shraddha, your devotion, and your thing will continue to increase. And eventually, you will go step by step up. So you don't have to try to aim for the end. You just have to go one step, right? So there's one nice thing which I always tell my kids, right? Like they always say, "Oh, I don't know how to get to some end point." So one person was in a forest and he told, the sadhu, "I forgot. It's dark right now. I can't go home." So the sadhu says, "Here, take a torch, go to your house." He says, "But I can't see the path." He says, "You don't need to see the path to your entire house. You only have to see what is ahead. Once you start going one step, the light only goes like 20 feet or 30 feet, right? But that is enough. Step by step, you can go. That will light up the next 30 feet. You go 30 feet, then it'll light up the next 30 feet, right? So that is how you have to incrementally go, which is what they're saying. So but you have to realize what the destination is. The destination is to be able to get the Dhrida Bhakti, that firm devotion, and you go there step by step by doing the regular worship. Bhuteshveshu Twadaikyya Smriti Samadhikatau, Nadhikarodhuna chet. Put it at the end of that line, comma. Next line, if you have two it, one of the it will go away. Twat prema, twatka maitri, jadamatishu kripa, comma. Dvitsu bhuyadupeksha. Bhuteshveshu twadhaikya smriti samadhigatau, nadhikarodhuna chet. Twat prema twatka maitri, jadamatishu kripa. Dvitsu bhuyadupeksha.
भूतेष्वेषु त्वदैक्य स्मृति समधिगतौ नाधिकारोऽधुना चेत् त्वत्प्रेम त्वत्कमैत्री जडमतिषु कृपा द्वित्सु भूयादुपेक्षा भूतेष्वेषु त्वदैक्य स्मृति समधिगतौ नाधिकारोऽधुना चेत् त्वत्प्रेम त्वत्कमैत्री जडमतिषु कृपा द्वित्सु भूयादुपेक्षा.
भूतेष्वेषु त्वदैक्य स्मृति समधिगतौ नाधिकारोऽधुना चेत् त्वत्प्रेम त्वत्कमैत्री जडमतिषु कृपा द्वित्सु भूयादुपेक्षा. भूतेष्वेषु त्वदैक्य स्मृति समधिगतौ नाधिकारोऽधुना चेत् त्वत्प्रेम त्वत्कमैत्री जडमतिषु कृपा द्वित्सु भूयादुपेक्षा.
Archayam va samarcha kutukam urutara, breaking at that ma, kutukam urutara shraddhaya vardhatam me, comma. So that line is continuous. Twat samsevi tathapi dhrutam upalabhate, comma. Bhakta lokotamatvam. So uttamam. So with that, by constantly going step by step, I will then become the greatest of your devotees. Archayam va samarcha kutukam urutara shraddhaya vardhatam me, tvatsam sevi tathapi dhrutam upalabhate bhakta lokotamatvam.
अर्चायां वा समर्चा कुतुकम् उरुतर श्रद्धया वर्धतां मे त्वत्संसेवी तथापि द्रुतम् उपलभते भक्तलोकोत्तमत्वम् अर्चायां वा समर्चा कुतुकम् उरुतर श्रद्धया वर्धतां मे त्वत्संसेवी तथापि द्रुतम् उपलभते भक्तलोकोत्तमत्वम्
अर्चायां वासमर्चा कुतुकम् उरुतर श्रद्धया वर्धतां मे त्वत्संसेवि तथापि धृतमुपलभते भक्तलोकोत्तमत्वम्
Preeti, in the fourth line, the drutam, u sound, drutam upalabhate.
Dhru, okay. Dhrutam, dhru, okay.
Drutam.
Dhruta, okay. अर्चायां वासमर्चा कुतुकम् उरुतर श्रद्धयां वर्धतां मे त्वत्संसेवि तथापि धृतमुपलभते भक्तलोकोत्तमत्वम्.
And in the fourth line, first word, tvatsam sevi long e. Okay.
Yeah.
Tvatsam sevi tathapi.
त्वत्संसेवि तथापि. Okay.
That's right. Avritya tvatswarupam क्षितिजलमरुदाध्यात्मना विक्षिपन्ति जीवान् भूयिष्ठकर्मा बलिविवशगतीन् दुःखजाले क्षिपन्ति त्वन्मायामाभिभून्मामयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्ये त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवदधयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः. So like it said last time, right? So all these are actually from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is telling Uddhava Gita. So he's preaching all of these things, saying these are the different types of bhakti which is there. These are the different types of devotees who are there. So but it's kind of, he's not literally translating that, but he's saying, give me that kind of a bhakti, or I want to go step by step. Is all literally taken from what Krishna is telling Uddhava. So in this, he says that, like we spoke earlier, right? At the end of the day, all these things, we see different things, the 5 elements that we spoke about at the end, all these material things which we are seeing are just all creation from the same source of Purusha, from where everything has come, right? And we kind of all look at it different. And we say, this people, we keep getting stuck till you come to the realization that anything you do is creating a karma, right? And the karma here is action you do and the result you're going to get out of it. And anything that could be like the kayena, vacha, manasa, all 3, right? All the 3 things are creating impressions. And as long as you're trapped in this, then you're going to keep coming again and again and again. There's no escaping that. There's no shortcut on that, right? And he says it is that illusion of not knowing why you are coming again and again is what keeps you in this happiness and sorrow. So we all ask a question. I've been doing all these really good things. Why are bad things happening to me? That's a question everybody asks, right? So it's because we haven't realized why things are happening the way it is. So anything that is happening is always a result of something that we have done in one of our previous lives, right? So I always take this time to explain a little bit about the different types of karma that we have, right? So most of you might know it from Gita and other places. So the first one is called as a sanchita karma. So this is called as the total karma that you have in your bank, sitting in your cloud, right? This is all the piled up karma that you have accumulated over thousands and thousands and thousands of births, which have not yet been realized. Because when you take a birth this time, saying, I want to be born in India, I want to come to Chicago, when your soul is planning, it cannot bring all the karma. It's impossible. So it has to pick certain karmas that it has to experience. It's a combination of good karmas and bad karmas that a soul is going to experience. So the sanchita karma is everything that is sitting in the bank. The prarabdha karma is what you decide to bring in to this life. So if you are experiencing all good things this life or all bad things this life, that doesn't mean that's all you have in your bank. There could be good and bad stuff sitting. You just did not decide to bring all those things, right? That's a simple way. So whatever you are experiencing right now, whatever is happening is because of that, not because of what you are doing in this janma, right? So that prarabdha karma is what you have brought in. So the first one is sanchita karma, which is a total bank balance you have in your cloud. The prarabdha karma is what you decide to bring into this life, which cannot be changed. The only way it can be changed is if Bhagavan decides that I want to wipe out everything for you, right? Whether you have to have that level of devotion. So that's why the greatest of devotees don't expect to wipe out the karma. They say, you give me devotion that I'm unaffected by whatever karma is happening to me. So when good things are happening and bad things are happening, I need to remain unaffected because I cannot control. I've already done that work before. So I have to pay for it right now. Let me not at least get affected by it. Because if you don't get affected by it, then you will not create new karma, which is called as kriyamana karma, kriya, to do things. So this is karma which we do on an every second basis. Everything that we talk, everything we think, everything we do is creating new impressions, which eventually we have to recuperate. If you do good things, you still have to get good things. You have to be born again to receive those good things, right? That's why karma yoga is so difficult, because karma yoga says that whatever you are doing, you surrender it to me. Right? How many of us celebrate Thanksgiving and say, I need thanks, right? I hear this from my family often saying, I do all these things, I don't get a thanks in return. That's because we always expect something in return. So how is it? So you go do a big charity, you go do a big service for 3 days, and somebody comes and says, whatever good karma you have got, give it to me. Give it to Bhagavan. Will you give it? You'll be like, no, I put 3 days of effort of doing something. I know I need good karma in return, right? I want to get the benefit of it, which means you're going to be born again to get those benefits. And when you're born again, you create more. So that's why he says you get stuck in this rut. So the only way, he says, he's giving example of a person called Prabuddha, Yogi Prabuddha. He says who's a Siddha Yogi, who's a great yogi. He says the only way to get rid of all of these things is constant devotion to you, so that you are not going to get affected and you will not want the karma either. So but that's when you will be able to surrender that karma. Anyway, that is a quick summary of that, but it's a long, wide explanation of it. That devotion is one way where you will not feel the effect of it, and you will also not want the karma. Avritya tvat swarupam, kshiti jala marudadhyatmana vikshipanti, long e, जीवान भूयिष्ठ कर्मावलि विवश गतीन, दुःख जाले क्षिपन्ति. Dukkha jale is the web of sorrow. Avritya tvat swarupam kshitijala marudadhyatmana vikshipanti, जीवान भूयिष्ठ कर्मावलि विवश गतीन, दुःख जाले क्षिपन्ति.
आवृत्य त्वत्स्वरूपं क्षितिजलमरुदाद्यात्मना विक्षिपन्ति, जीवान् भूयिष्ठकर्मावलिविवशगतीन् दुःखजाले क्षिपन्ति. आवृत्य त्वत्स्वरूपं क्षितिजलमरुदाद्यात्मना विक्षिपन्ति, जीवान् भूयिष्ठकर्मावलिविवशगतीन् दुःखजाले क्षिपन्ति.
आवृत्य त्वत्स्वरूपं क्षितिजलमरुताध्यात्मना विक्षिपन्ति, जीवान् भूयिष्ठकर्मावलिविवशगतीन् दुःखजाले क्षिपन्ति.
In the first line, tvat swarupam.
Swarupam, okay. Avritya tvatswarupam kshitijalamarudha dhyatmana vikshipanti, जीवान् भूयिष्ठकर्मावलिविवशगतीन् दुःखजाले क्षिपन्ति.
Twan maya mabhibhun mamai bhuvanapate, kalpate tat prashantyai, tvat pade bhaktirevetyava dadayi vibho, siddha yogi prabuddha. त्वन्मायामाभिभून्मामयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्यै त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवददयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः
माभिभून्मामयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्यै त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवददयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः त्वन्मायामाभिभून्मामयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्यै त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवददयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः
त्वन्मायामाभिभून्मा मयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्यै त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवददयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः त्वन्मायामाभिभून्मा मयि भुवनपते कल्पते तत्प्रशान्त्यै त्वत्पादे भक्तिरेवेत्यवददयि विभो सिद्धयोगी प्रबुद्धः
दुःखान्यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलमुदितविवेकोऽहमाचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद्भक्तिभूमा मायामेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिताहे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशया शेषरोगान्. So eventually, this is all of us, when we take time and we look around, we will get this vivekam. Vivekam is the ability to be able to separate and discriminate things out. Discrimination of us in a bad way, but to be able to decipher what is actually happening, which is to see that everybody who is there is suffering in some form or the other. So which is the way to realize that anybody who is born, is going to be suffering. They have different kinds of suffering. So it is coming to that realization, right? So because till you come to that realization, you will always feel there is, I can continue to get something better, and all my sufferings will go. Sufferings will never go, because it's like depends on what karma you have got and what karma you're building, right? Like we saw earlier. So he says the individual, that's why he says the understanding coming to that realization is important, because then you can get the appropriate guidance, right? It says by going to some acharya, going to some spiritual leader, and then getting guidance who will put you on the path of getting true knowledge. And the path of getting true knowledge, in this case, because it's focusing on Bhakti Yoga, he says can just come from listening to all the katha, listening to Hari Katha, listening to the glories, listening to the Leela that Bhagavan has performed. And by getting that, you get that Parama Bhakti that will naturally put you on the right path. And that is the way you have to overcome. So even if you cannot fully decipher and do everything through your jnana, then he says at least going on the bhakti seems to be the only path available if you cannot go the other two. We'll see in the next class about karma yoga, but here this is summarizing bhakti yoga, saying this is much easier because all you have to do is you have to pray, you have to chant, you have to listen to what Bhagavan has done, and that is sufficient. That will put you on the right path. And Guru Arpa, please eradicate my ailments. And he says the first step for that, he says the first step in that is just to listen. Like, they always say, right, even if you don't say a chant, when they're kids, they used to say, just go to the temple. You don't have to pray. Just go to the temple and just sit, just listen. Because that itself is a good start, and that itself is a first start towards this. Dukkan yalokya jantushvalam, breaking at that ma, jantushvalam udita vivekoham, break at the ma again, vivekoham acharya varyat. So put a it at the end of that line, comma. So the whole line is together. Jantushvalam udita vivekoham acharya varyat, comma. Next line, if we have a il and a la, that il will go away. Labdhva twadrupa tattvam, comma. Guna charita kathat yudbhavat. So if we have a dhya, I'm just breaking it into it and a ya. Kathat yudbhavat bhakti bhuma. दुःखान् यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलमुदितविवेकोऽहमाचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद्भक्तिभूमा
दुःखान्यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलम् उदित विवेकोऽहम् आचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद्भक्तिभूमा दुःखान्यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलमुदित विवेकोऽहम् आचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं तत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद् भक्तिभूमा
दुःखान्यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलमुदितविवेकोऽहमाचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद्भक्तिभूमा दुःखान्यालोक्य जन्तुष्वलम् उदितविवेकोऽहम् आचार्यवर्यात् लब्ध्वा त्वद्रूपतत्त्वं गुणचरितकथाद्युद्भवद्भक्तिभूमा
माया मेनां तरित्वा परम सुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिताहे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेष रोगान् माया मेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिताहे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेष रोगान्
मायामेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिता हे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेषरोगान् मायामेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिता हे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेषरोगान् श्री कृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः
मायामेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिता हे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेषरोगान् मायामेनां तरित्वा परमसुखमये त्वत्पदे मोदिता हे तस्यायं पूर्वरङ्गः पवनपुरपते नाशयाशेषरोगान्
परब्रह्मणे नमः. The class here today. सान्ध्यानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावदेभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे अन्तर्भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh ji.
Bye.